Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're talking about relocating to Spain, and we're joined by two couples, or two and a half couples, who have completed the move, along with specialist removal company BTR International and estate agent Zoe DORAN from Spain Property Specialist. Thank you for all joining us, and I'd like you to introduce yourselves, maybe starting with you, Zoe. Hi, Zoe.
Hello everyone. I moved to Spain with my family and children, and involved schools and needing to work. And when I first moved myself, I didn't know anything better than anyone else who's never moved to Spain and isn't a professional at doing it. So I really learned the hard way myself. And then since then I've been working originally for an estate agent as an employee, and now have my own business, because it means that I can give people absolute TLC and time that they need to help them with the process of moving. And nobody can say to me, well, you really ought to be selling a house, when I'm happily in IKEA shopping with my clients.
Hello, my name's Sarah Huntridge. I work for a company that does moving and relocation services. Although we're based in the UK, we do global moves for individuals and also companies. And our company name is BTR International, and we can help with shipping, packing, also destination services like home search, school searches, and yeah, it's just nice to help people have a stress-free move.
That's what we're after, stress-free move. And it's all about the preparation, Craig and Lynn, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is. Took us a few years to decide where in Spain we wanted to move. We knew we wanted to move to Spain, but we didn't know where, so we took approximately 5 years in deciding whereabouts we wanted to live. But it paid off, because when we did move, we found the right place and settled in very quickly. Oh,
fantastic. Excellent. So well, my name is Alex Radford. I'm an English solicitor and Spanish lawyer. My parents moved out to Spain in 1981. The UK wasn't a member of the European Union then. Spain joined in 1985. I went to an English school to start off with, and then a Spanish school, because my parents saw that I wasn't learning any Spanish. And I followed through the Spanish system here, and then moved back to the UK in 92 to go to university. I did law with European legal systems, and then started practicing as a lawyer in 99, and came back to Spain in 2003. And since then I've been working as a solicitor here, acting for clients buying, selling and inheriting property all over Spain, and also applying for their residency. And that's what we're going to be talking to you about today. Talk about the general move, relocating to Spain, and how Craig and Lynn will talk about their experiences. I'll talk about my experiences, and Sarah and Zoe and also myself will provide you with some professional advice about how to do it. Okay, so first of all, Craig and Lynn, what made you decide to move to Spain, and how long had you been planning the move, and are you working in Spain?
No, we took early retirement. We were very lucky not have to work. I worked for 32 years as a nurse, and my husband worked in the pharmaceutical industry for over 30 years as well. So we decided to move to Spain, as I say, about 5 or 6 years before we actually did the move. Some friends of ours had moved. We visited them, we'd seen how happy they were, and we thought, should we do the same? And we sold up, and over we came. Best thing we ever did.
No regrets.
No regret.
What made you decide to move to Spain, Zoe?
So basically, because I grew up in Spain, I always kind of felt that I wanted to come back to Spain. It's difficult once you've got Spain in your blood. It's difficult to get it out of your blood. And when I moved back to the UK to go to university, the bells ringing at kind of 10 to 11 last orders, and cold nights in the winter, and I just kept on thinking of Spain, and the lovely blue skies here and sunshine, and the lifestyle, and I wanted to come back, but it had to be right. So it was all about getting a good job, being qualified as a lawyer, and looking at the opportunities here when I moved out, because I wasn't lucky enough to retire like you guys. Still some years to go until that. So I got made a job offer I think I got made a job, it was in October, and then my wife and I came out to Spain, and we had a look around, and we probably took the decision to move about 5 or 6 months later, and then we handed in our resignations and started the move. So someone's decided to move to Spain. It's not always easy for them to decide on a house and an area, Zoe. You know, when I lived here before, I lived in Fuengirola and grew up on the Costa del Sol, Malaga region. And then when I came back, I was thinking, well, I've done that area. I thought I'd, do somewhere else. And we came back and we went to Nerja, but I knew the area already. What advice do you provide to people wishing to move to Spain when they are unsure about the areas, towns, and types of houses available?
Well, the most important thing to think about when you're going to move anywhere, especially if you're moving countries, is what kind of lifestyle you want to lead. And how different does that need to be from what you currently do wherever you live now? And so you might be wanting to change your lifestyle completely, or you might be wanting to carry on doing a lot of the things that you like doing and maybe just add a bit of sun and sea and sand into it. But you need to take into account, if you need to work, then you need to be where people are, where they're going to be spending money, and travel time and things like that. So you could potentially see an amazing bargain property for really low, loads of land, lovely pool, beautiful house in the absolute middle of nowhere. But if you need to work and your kids need to go to school, then that potentially would put a lot of pressure on a family. So you really have to think about lifestyle and how you're going to fit into the areas that are on offer to you, and if you speak Spanish or not. Because there are areas that you can go where there are more expats, and not just British people. Obviously, there are lots of other countries in the world who also speak English if you don't speak other languages, so you can engage with people. And if you need to get a job and you don't speak Spanish, then it's a good idea to think about if there are people in those areas you're considering who you can talk to and communicate with.
Okay.
The other thing, just one more thing that I just wanted to say about that is that if there's two of you moving on your own and you move somewhere very, very isolated, you've got to really think about what would happen if there was just one of you left and you were in the middle of nowhere. And if it's going to be your forever home and you've got no intentions of buying again, then you really have to think of the future as well. Perhaps not going for stairs, or perhaps not going too remote. So you've got to just be able to think about what life will be like in reality.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. We see that quite a lot. People will move somewhere far too remote, downsize, buy a cheaper property, and then it's very difficult to come back into a town later on because the prices are quite different sometimes. So basically, Sarah, someone's moving to Spain. How much should they budget for removal costs and shipping their possessions to Spain?
Well, it's difficult to give a ballpark because everybody has different quantities of possessions, and it depends obviously where you're coming from and where you're going to. But what we can do nearer the time of the move is we could do a no obligation free quotation, and that will give you a set price. And then obviously if you want to compare that to other companies, you can do that and get the best value for your money. It's not really, it depends on how much you want to take with you as well. There's some people that just want to take their very treasured possessions, and other people want to take everything. So if you decide to sell some of your stuff and not take it, obviously it's going to be a lot less cost. But that's the best way to do it, is get a quote. It doesn't matter if the quote is a year before you decide to go, it gives you an idea. And then usually there's a validity on the quote, so they'll say that would stand for 3 or 6 months, and then you can get another one nearer to your move time if you want.
Sure. And then what other help can you offer as well, or can BTR International offer?
Yeah, so we can help manage the move, everything from your packing up to getting your goods loaded onto the container, or if it's going on a road freight into the vehicles that are taking it across to Spain. If you're coming from the UK, it's usually road freight, through to the delivery, going through all the customs that's required for importing your possessions, and then the delivery at your location. some people might be renting first before they buy, so they might want to put their stuff into storage. We can help with that. I know sometimes the businesses across in Spain will offer free storage for a month, just give you time to get your bearings and find the property you want, or you might be waiting for the sale to go through, and there might be a little bit of interim space where you'd need to be somewhere temporary. Yeah. So
can I just give somebody some advice about that?
Yeah.
About moving house and taking their possessions, 'cause having done it myself and having had loads of people move their stuff, you probably want to really consider stuff that you might not have to buy again and taking it with you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people get rid of almost everything they own. They get here and they have to buy everything again, and they think, oh, I really wish I'd kept that electric drill. Or in my case, my big mistake was not taking my very expensive bed that I had in the UK, and I am still wishing I had that mattress.
Missing it.
Right? So then, just think, when people are moving, like, it's going to be life the same again in a different country. So you probably are going to need stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes it's cheaper to take your possessions and buy them all again in the new country, because, like you say, it might not be as good quality, or there might not be the choice of furniture to buy or the style that you want. So yeah, sometimes it's just worth paying that little extra to take what you have rather than start again. Yeah.
As a non-DIY enthusiast, I was delighted that the electric drill got left behind, Zoe. So, Craig and Lynn, did you set up entirely in the UK, or did you retain a UK house?
No, we actually sold up totally. We didn't want possibly the temptation of having an easy way out to go back. We wanted to at least give it a try for at least 2 years, so that we were sure. So we made the decision to actually sell up totally, and the rest is history. I mean, we've been here just over 3 years now, and we're still loving it, and we're still finding out new things about everywhere. So,
Zoe, did you sell up as well? Did you sell up entirely?
No, we actually kept our house. But my husband would tell you over a beer, he thought he was moving to Spain to try it out for 6 months. But I had absolutely no intention of ever going back, so I had to just make it work. But then after we'd been here a few years, he was a bit like, oh, I thought it looks like we're not going back after 6 months. And I was like, no, you're right, we're not going back. So,
how many years ago was that?
I've actually been living here 3.5 years full time, but we came back and forward to the area multiple times before we decided that it was definitely right for us, on holidays and on a trip to sort of look at where we would live and, you know, what we would do. But yeah, so my house is rented out in the UK, luckily to one of my very good friends, so I'm not worried about it.
Lynn and Craig, when you were planning the move to Spain, how did you plan that? What did you do first, and can you just talk us through that kind of planning stage?
Yeah, we decided we wanted to move to Spain several years ago, but we were still working at the time. So a bit like yourself, so we took lots of trips out, and we combined our holidays with looking at areas. Not necessarily looking at properties or estate agents, but just looking at the areas to see if it was the right place to live. Because what's the right place for a holiday isn't necessarily the right place to live, we found. When we narrowed it down to certain areas, we went in the winter time to see if the shops were open and the restaurants were open. Because again, if you're living somewhere, it's no good if it's all closed up for the winter. And I think it paid off, because we found the right area, and when we did move over, we rented for a few weeks just to have that definite decision that this was the right place. So we rented through an estate agent who was also the same estate agent that helped us find the property that we bought. And we were very lucky because we found it within a few weeks, really. Yeah. So we were quite lucky, yeah.
Excellent.
But I think that paid off, definitely.
But I mean, so you'd spent a long time planning this move.
Yes.
You come out to the area on multiple occasions.
We did.
And then, even though you knew the area, you still decided to rent first.
We did. We're risk averse, I'm afraid.
But it's a big move. I mean, you know, we did, you know, my wife and I, we sold up in the UK entirely as well, and we took the decision to kind of buy a plot of land in Spain and build. And that again, we needed the money from the sale of our UK house to pay for the plot of land, and also to help us build. So you know, it's a big decision though, and you have got to. It's very important, I think, to come over like you did, Zoe, like Craig and Lynn did, that we did, just to come over and make sure that the area is right for you. Because if you get that area, if you get it wrong, it can be quite a costly mistake. Zoe, did you? So are you renting, Zoe, or have you bought?
We're renting for now, but my husband's getting on a bit, and so our plan is to buy when he gets his pension money, which won't be too long. Early retirement. So yeah, so that was part of our plan. But because we have smaller children, we wanted to get them to Spain, basically. When we made the decision that we'd like to come and try life in Spain and see if it would be right for us, we also wanted the children to go to Spanish school. And so we wanted to get them there almost as fast as we physically could, just to get them into the Spanish school system and speaking Spanish as part of their normal life, because we felt that the older they were, the harder it might be for them. So we could have waited until we had, you know, some early retirement money to buy at that point, or if we'd sold our house. But as I say, because we weren't 100% sure at the time if it was right for us, we sort of we did it, but we were cautious in that, you know, we rented, we kept our house, and but we knew the kids, getting them in school young would be better for them if it was going to be our forever home. And it absolutely is now. There's no way we're going back. And we've already identified the house that we're likely to buy, and made plans for the future. So, and the kids are, when they're open, obviously, then the kids are very happy in Spanish school. And it was definitely the right thing to do, to get them there early.
And how long did it take them to pick up Spanish?
The transition was actually much less painful than I was expecting it to be. I was quite worried about it. But one of my boys was 6, and he went and started at 6, which a lot of children in Spain start school at 6. Because the interesting thing about Spain is that you can actually put your children into the school system at 3 if you choose to. It's a bit like nursery, but it is actually school. But it's not compulsory until they're 6. So he went and joined in with other pupils who were new to school as well. So that was actually really worked well for him. And also at that age, you're learning simple words for life, regardless of what language you're speaking. So it was an ideal time for him to join the system. And then my other little boy is now 3, and he started last September. And I think it's fantastic that they can just integrate. And we don't speak an awful lot of Spanish at home. We do, obviously, with the younger ones, we do lots of simple words to sort of get them more used to it, you know, things like going to the bathroom and things like that, and in readiness for going to school. But I needn't have worried at all. They're absolutely fine. No issues whatsoever. I was very lucky.
That's good. That's excellent. So apart from, you know, acting as an estate agent and finding the right property for people, do you also what other services do you offer as an estate agent? Do you help them, for example, find schools for their children and that?
Yes, absolutely. Because when you're moving to a new country, you've literally, again, got to think about every single aspect of your lifestyle. And if you have children who need school, then it's hugely important. A lot of people in the UK wouldn't move house without thinking, like, what school are they going in? And we also did think about schools and thinking about where we were going to live from the beginning as well, and took advice and listened to people and read forums and thought it through. And now that obviously I've been here for a while and I've helped people move house, what we'll do, it depends whether people want to use Spanish school or international schools, and I help with both, but they are very, very different in terms of how you apply and how it all works. So I like to say that I'm a single point of contact for everything you need to do with moving to Spain, and so that and the school aspect's one of the things that worries people if they need it the most. But with an international school, it's actually quite easy to make an appointment to go and visit them and to contact them. They obviously will speak English in an international school, and you're paying for it, so they do tend to welcome you in because they want you to join the school. But there's always a good choice, so you should always think about location and facilities and what they have to offer with international schools. So I always go with my clients to meet the teachers in the schools when there's an international school that they're considering, and I always say consider several and see which is best for you. With Spanish schools it's a bit different. They don't generally enable you to join unless it's like a beginning of a term. It's very difficult to rock up in Spain and get your children into school straight away. It is something that does need a bit of thought and planning. And for example, the applications for schools for September coming up really should already have been in by now. And anyone who's who's now thinking about moving to Spain for September, and this has been reported in June, might be thinking, oh, I'll have plenty of time. But actually, a lot of the schools are already finished in terms of their applications, or you can still always try and do a late application. I would always say try, but in terms of following the process, it has to be thought through quite far in advance. In the same way it would if you were doing it in England or wherever you live. It's not necessarily straightforward. And you usually have to go to the town hall to pick up a form to fill in, which is obviously in Spanish. And that tends to be the first step. And the other important step about schools is you can't get a school place in a Spanish school without being on your local padron. So this is very important. And the padron is a bit like the electoral roll. And you have to be on that padron because that is how the school gets funding for the place for the child. So it's non-negotiable. If you're not on the padron, you don't get a place in Spanish school. And just a little helpful hint for anybody, if you have a rental contract, your children's names must appear with either their passport numbers or their NIE numbers, if they have them, in the rental contract for you to get the padron and for you to get a place in school. It's a very important aspect that gets missed because you think, well, normally it's just the people, the parents who are on the rental contract, and it's not important for the children's names to be on there as it wouldn't be in the UK, but it is important in Spain. So you do your research, talk to people who are experts and who know or have children who are in school. And there are forums, there are Facebook groups, and there are different things. But remember that not everything you see online is correct. You do need to speak to somebody who actually are an expert in the area, because some people will say, oh, don't worry about this or that. But actually, sometimes you do need to worry about this or that. So take good advice from somebody who does know what they're doing.
Yeah, those are excellent tips on schooling and that and moving out. So Sarah, on the removal front, it's a big move from one country to another, once in a lifetime move. What can go wrong from the removal side?
Well, hopefully, if we've done our job correct, nothing will go wrong. And if it does, we would be there to mitigate any problems on behalf of a client. Obviously, things can get damaged in transit or lost, and we always advise for the client to take out insurance to cover. It's usually about 3% of the value of the goods, but obviously, I mean, the possessions are going a long way, and if we've packed everything all right, everything should get there whole, but obviously sometimes mishaps happen. So yeah, we would be there to get involved with any problems that might come about, and save you having to ring different people to sort the situation.
And as part of the package, Sarah, do you include insurance in that, or do clients have to take a separate insurance policy out?
Yeah, so we quote for the removal and the shipping of the possessions, and then we would send a form to the client for them to value their goods. It's a spreadsheet, so you just tick what you have and what you paid for it, tot it up. Recently had somebody, they said that everything was worth about £15,000. So then obviously the insurance would be 3% of that cost to insure it, and there are taxes as well on top of that, but it's peace of mind. I mean, if you lose something that's obviously of personal, you know, value, you can't replace that feeling that you have for that piece, but we'll try and obviously make sure that you get some kind of compensation for it through the insurance. Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully that doesn't happen,
Yeah.
because you guys experience this, aren't you? I mean, how many times have you done this kind of move from
well,
UK to Spain?
Yeah, I mean, sort of globally, we're doing about 1,500 to 2,000 moves a year, and that's a standard. It is seasonal, so busier times tend to be the summer months, because that's usually when house sales go through. I think May is one of the top months for getting houses sold and completed, and then people obviously want to move as soon as possible into their new location, their new country. So yeah, we're pretty experienced at doing it, and we have a global network of support for moving as well. So not just for Europe, all over the world.
Excellent. And generally speaking, how long does the removal process take?
If you're going to move from the UK to Spain, it's usually road freight. So if it's direct, it's about 5 to 7 days. If it's indirect, it's about 5 to 25 days. If you're moving from, say, another continent like America or Far East, it's usually ocean or air freight. And obviously that's dependent on the shipping lanes and also the airlines or their schedules. Roughly from continent to continent, if you were going from, say, USA to Spain, it'd be at least 6 to 8 weeks for your items on a ship.
Excellent.
Go across. Yeah.
And what can't you take? What can't you kind of bring over from home to your new home?
So restricted items are the usual. It's just quantities, really. So if you've got a wine collection, and obviously that's your personal use, that's fine, but obviously they don't want you bringing in 50 crates of wine that you might sell and not pay the duty on. So yeah, restricted items are wine, spirits, foods, firearms. That's another one. If you've got guns, some people have shotguns for going hunting with. You'd have to make sure they were cleared correctly with customs, and again, sometimes we use a specialist out service for the firearms, because it is something, obviously it has to be monitored, moving firearms across countries. And cigarettes is the other one. Prohibited items are narcotics and drugs and pornography. Some countries aren't happy for you to bring them in. To be honest, I'm not sure about Spain, but I know.
I think it's understandable.
Yeah, I think in the UAE it's the definite no, and obviously Saudi Arabia. But I'm not quite sure whether that would be something you would be locked up for or just told off for. So that's it. Yeah.
So what happens on moving out day, Sarah?
So we would book a crew to come and collect your possessions, and they bring everything with them to pack up. So boxes, if large items need crating, you might have some works of art that are very expensive, so they would go in crates. They do a walkthrough to make sure before they pack up they know exactly what they're going to be taking, because obviously some people don't take everything. They would leave certain items and maybe they would be collected later to be sold, or just left for the buyer. And then everything's packed up, and then if it's going on a ship, then it's taken to the warehouse and everything's loaded onto a container, and then that container's hauled to the port, and that goes on to the ship, obviously. And then at the other end, we have our partners that would pick up the container, and if it's easier, sometimes the container goes direct to the residence and then unloaded, or sometimes it's taken to a warehouse in say Spain, and then the boxes are unloaded and put onto the vehicles for delivery then, and then everything is taken to the new location.
And when they arrive at that new location, can you unpack? Do you unpack? Do you offer that service of unpacking?
We do, yeah. Mostly what they would do is put down in the room that the items belong in. So the first service they would go down. If you want someone to unpack everything, and some clients do, they're too busy. One client who's moved numerous times has said it took them 6 months to unpack because they just didn't have the time to get into all the boxes. So yeah, we offer a concierge service. If you want a maid service to go in and hang all your clothes in colour order or season order, we can arrange that for you. If you want someone to put your furniture, say you've dismantled your bed and you want somebody to go and put it up for you, we can arrange for a handyman to go in and put all your furniture back together if it's been dismantled. Obviously that would be extra to any shipping costs, but it can be quoted for in advance. Excellent.
That sounds like an essential service. So basically, once people have moved to Spain, then they've got to apply for residency. The calendar year in Spain runs from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. And if you spend more than 3 months a year in Spain in one calendar year, you have an obligation to register as a resident. And that involves, as Zoe mentioned earlier, you have to register on the Padron, which is the local census. And then you apply for residency by basically opening a bank account, putting money into the bank account, booking an appointment online, going along to the police station and applying for residency, and then obtaining that. And if you spend more than 6 months a year in Spain, then you become what's known as a Spanish tax resident, and you'll pay tax in Spain on worldwide assets and income. And it's very important to plan your move, just like we're talking about planning the relocations, planning when you become a Spanish tax resident. Because if you, for example, sold your property in the UK in the same year that you became a Spanish tax resident, so you sold your property in the UK, say in February, and became a tax resident in Spain in March, then Spain could potentially tax you on any gain that you've made on the sale of your UK property. So it's very important, I'd say, to kind of sell your UK property, move to Spain, and then apply for residency. Certainly, you register for residency, but become a Spanish tax resident after, or the year after you've sold that UK property. So again, it's very important. Have a look at our website. We've got processes set out there. Each region in Spain has different amounts that are required in bank accounts. And if people are under the age of 65, so they haven't retired, then they will need private medical insurance. And we are expecting that the Spanish government will be updating their rules and regulations as far as residency. So have a look at our news section on the website, www.getspanishResidency.com, and we'll keep you updated about what's new. That's me from residency. Sarah, did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Craig Lynn, what do you enjoy most about living in Spain, and also what do you miss about the UK?
We miss our family.
Yes.
That's it really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we miss our kids. I mean, obviously because of COVID, I think we should have had 4 sets of visitors by now. But obviously they've not been able to come out. So that's been a bit of I wouldn't say upsetting, but it's hit us hard. But apart from that, that's all we miss about the UK. And I've actually become quite sociable.
Which you never was.
I never was.
There was always hope.
No, we've met some lovely friends.
Yeah.
We've been to some lovely restaurants. We did some lovely walks. Every day's amazing. Yeah.
Would you say that the pace of life is a lot slower and you have time to do things?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It took me in particular a little while to get used to that.
I can imagine. Yeah.
But I have got used to it.
And what about you, Alex? What do you enjoy about living in Spain the most?
I mean, Ali lives here as well. Zoe lives here as well, and I think they probably agree with me. I think, you know, having the longer days, you know, you can spend a lot more time out of the house, really from April, May onwards till about October. So you can get a lot more done, and it's just, you know, nice to come home and it's blue sky, sunshine rather than grey skies. So I think I love that the most. We live quite close to the sea, so we're a kilometre away from the beach. So I go for a run along the beach, which is nice. We're walking the dogs, going out with the family to the beach, beach bars, etc. That the lifestyle is great. You know, we still work as hard, if not harder, than we did in the UK. And as far as the UK is concerned, I agree with Craig Lynn. We miss friends and family, but I'd say I also miss English pubs, you know, English beer, and sometimes I miss English people, because the English people have got a great sense of humour. And sometimes Spaniards don't quite get that sense, that dry, sarcastic sense of humour that or the ironic sense of humour that we've got. And I have this conversation with my colleagues in the office, the Spanish colleagues, and they accept that. But yeah, I'd say that's. What about you and Zoe and Ali? What do you enjoy most, and what do you miss the most?
Well, we obviously do have the same with friends and family. We miss, and that's the only reason I go back to the UK really is for the place in the sun shows and to visit family. And there's absolutely nothing else I really miss, because we're quite lucky where we live. And this is going back to lifestyle. We chose to live somewhere where we could still do all the fun things that we did. And for example, there's a trampoline park for my son near where I live. There's dare I say it, a Primark near where I live. So this is all part of our lifestyle that we wanted to keep as similar as what we had and make it better. So we deliberately chose somewhere where we knew, because my husband really likes to go and watch football in the pub. So one of our criteria was he needed to be able to walk to a pub to watch football, or it wouldn't have mattered if it was a free house that was worth £1 million. He would, if you couldn't walk to a pub and watch football, then we wouldn't be happy. So, there's all this sort of lifestyle thing. So we do pretty much everything, and even down to Sunday roast dinners, which is something that I particularly like. So we have really chosen an area where we can get all the things that we need. And there are lots of Spanish things that we love as well, and lots of Spanish places we can go. So we do have the best of both. But occasionally, it's when we go back to the UK, some of the things that we bring back are certain food items, simply because they're so much cheaper in the UK for certain branded goods. So I do tend to buy some chocolate in the UK, branded chocolate, and some other branded goods that you can get them in Spain, but they are more expensive. And sometimes toiletries as well. Sometimes they come home with things like that. But really, other than that, we absolutely love living in Spain, and we don't. Really
and Zoe, what area of Spain are you in?
I'm in Costa South, and that covers Alicante province, which is another little tip. If you're looking for properties, they will probably say Alicante, and as you start looking, you'll start to realise that doesn't necessarily mean Alicante city, because it's a province is an absolutely huge geographical area. And the same with Murcia. Murcia is somewhere where I also work, and it's a huge geographical province. But there's also the cities of Alicante and Murcia, and they're not the same thing. So when you're doing searches, where I particularly live is in Villamartin, and it's quite an expat area, but we have lots of really nice Spanish areas very nearby. Like, for example, San Miguel de Salinas is, less than 10 minutes in the car, and it's very, very Spanish in a beautiful way. It has a lovely square and lots of nice little tapas bars and restaurants and traditional way of living in Spain on our doorstep. So we kind of have the best of both, and we can sort of choose to mingle more with Spanish people in Spanish style dining out, which we love to do, or we can choose to be in a more of an expat area with our Sunday roasts and British football. It just depends what you want.
And Ali, what do you say you miss the most and like the most about Spain?
Well, I've been fortunate in that I've lived in various countries in the world. So I've lived in Australia, I've lived in the Middle East, and I've lived in Asia. So Spain for me and my husband is definitely the best place to live, because of access to transportation. We are Skype grandparents, so we have our kids on Skype. and they actually travel a lot. My stepdaughter's just about to move to America, so it gives you the opportunity for both things, so you can travel backwards and forwards quite easily to the UK. I miss my 2 best girlfriends, but that's about it really. Everything is connectable, so there isn't the difficulty with keeping in touch with friends and family. And the lifestyle here is fantastic. As Alex said, being able to go out at different times, and it being much lighter into the evenings, especially now in the summer, is great. And it's very geared up for outdoor living here. And getting into, as Zoe was mentioning, you know, a lot of, when you first move here, you still want to keep the English products in your basket, but after a while you get used to buying Spanish food, and then that just becomes normal. In fact, quite often I forget the name of a product in English. I just know it's the Spanish word. So those things gradually take over as you become more and more integrated.
So we're going to wrap this up now, and we're just going to kind of go around the Zoom screen and just ask everyone, you know, top tips for relocating to Spain. And let's start with you, Sarah, right at the top there.
So yeah, I mean, obviously my company would say have professional help. It's not like moving in the UK to another house. If you were going from one house in the UK to another, you could probably get your own van and do that yourself. It's much more complex. So to give yourself a stress-free and much easier transition, I would say get professional help. It's worth the money. And at the end of the day, there'll be a lot more things that you have to sort out when you get there, so it's one less thing you have to worry about.
A similar thing about professional advice, actually, take everything that people say in a pub with a pinch of salt, because just because the rules might have been different when they moved, so somebody might in all seriousness give you some advice or information, and it might be incorrect because the rules might have changed, because the rules do change on a regular basis. And so you do need to get proper advice from somebody that does actually do it for a living and is current in terms of what the latest, for example, Alex was talking about residency is. Well, that does change and has changed, and sometimes it can be specific to an area. So just because somebody managed to do something in one area doesn't necessarily mean it's the same in a different area, because different rules might apply. So you do always need to get proper advice on important things like residency and tax and information, and don't just take it for granted because your friend said, or somebody that you thought was your friend said, this is how you do it, because that might not be true. And then the other thing is, as I said before, you know, do think about what you're going to take with you, and maybe don't necessarily just get rid of absolutely everything when you're moving, because you might need some of those things when you're here in Spain. Clothes, winter clothes, can I just say, I got rid of some cardigans that I'm still missing. Well, there's some really nice cardigans walking around that I gave to charity shops in Britain, and I really wish I still had some of those cardigans.
I'm glad you mentioned the cardigans and not the bed, eh? Craig Lynn, what 2 top tips would you offer people looking at relocating to Spain?
Research.
Definitely
Research your area.
Yeah. Just take your time and look at the area first, and you know, rent first if you're not 100% sure. It's a lot of money if it's the wrong decision.
And get a good solicitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
As we know.
One that's recommended. If you do read reviews and recommendations. I agree with you what you're saying about a good solicitor, but who knows what a good solicitor is unless you've actually had an experience with them.
Yeah.
So you know, do read reviews and recommendations. And the other thing is that if you're unsure, then I would invite anyone to ring any of my previous clients, and actually I would be more than happy. And as should anyone who does a good job and takes pride in what they do. If you're nervous about engaging with an agent or a solicitor or anybody, if you say to them, would it be possible for me to speak to one of your previous clients, then they really ought to be able to give you somebody that you could talk to if needed. But otherwise, read all the reviews and comments, and do try and get a personal recommendation if you can.
Thank you for that, Zoe. And Ali, as the founder of Costa Women, you're talking to people about relocating quite on a regular basis. What tips would you top tips would you give to them?
Well, I think Lynn and Craig are absolutely right. You can never do enough research, and I'm still shocked at the amount of little research people do before they move here, particularly around whether they can work here or not, and what type of work is available. We've seen a big influx of digital nomads here, which is brilliant because Spain has very good internet infrastructure, so that's a good option. But yeah, definitely my top three would be research is 1, 2 is research, and 3 is research, because I still don't think you can do enough research. And don't go by what you're told by people in the pub.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ali. We sometimes we do, as a lawyer practicing in Spain, we do get questions sometimes and asked and quizzed, and well, actually my mate said in the pub last night that this is the situation, and what you're saying is not quite right, and we do have to put them to rights quite often. So don't listen to barroom lawyers, listen to real lawyers. And my top 2 tips would be actually plan your relocation carefully, especially on the tax side, selling your property before, finding out about the residency requirements when you move here. Have a look at our website, and always use an independent lawyer who's going to act for you. I think that's very important. Well, listen, thank you very much indeed, Ali, Craig, Lynn, Sarah and Zoe for joining us. We'll be placing this on our YouTube channel, and hope you'll enjoy this. You've enjoyed this and watch some other of our videos when you can. Thank you very much, and hope to see you soon in Spain. Hasta luego.